Good afternoon, everyone. This is 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗶 from HKIBIM. Welcome to the sharing today. Today, our topic is shaping sustainable digital futures, responsible AI-enabled BIM and digital twin for construction governance and leadership. We are happy to invite Dr. 𝗪𝗲𝗍 to have a presentation and sharing to us. Before the sharing session begins, let me invite Mr. 𝗥𝗲𝗍𝗆, Chairman of the HKIBIM, to share some of the latest news from the Institute. Juan, please.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Hello, members and all non-members. Welcome to the 10th CBD events of HKIBIM. I'm the chair for HKIBIM for this term. So HKIBIM is established in 2009. To date, we have more than 1,400 members, close to 1,500. The objects of the Institute is to promote and advance the general education's understanding and appreciation and interest of building information management, to also foster general awareness, establish and advance the standards for BIM, establish links with relevant institutes of tertiary education, government bureaus, departments, statutory bodies, and other organizations, to research, facilitate, and promote means of better management of BIMs, and also to provide guidance on careers for BIM to our members. This is the board that we established 2025, April 18th. This is the board members. And this is the public services committee that we have also established on top of the board members to help us to run the institutes better. So the committee members are appointed on 28th October 2025. Today we have around 14 corporate members. So definitely thank you, Mr. Sets University, as being one of the corporate members of Hong Kong IBIM. China division was established last term, and now we have close to 30 members in China divisions, professional members of China divisions, and also associate members of China divisions. So please try to encourage and more members from across the border. Young memberships divisions. So this is targeting secondary school students. So we are also helping in training the younger generations and recruit them as young membership divisions. So this is an effort with Kowloon, San Yok secondary schools. So we are targeting college students from Form 1 to Form 6. Today, we have already completed 9 CBD events for this board term. So we cover a range of topics, including architectural, design innovation, ESG, decarbonization focus, digital twins, smart infrastructures, digitalization of works, construction projects, BIM diversifications, advanced applications, workforce and industry transformations. So we have invited speakers from overseas, like Denmark, Japan, and Italy. So we also held a joint event with Hong Kong IE building divisions for physical event. We just completed the one of the largest award presentations from ceremony events in April 17th at Marriott Ocean Park. So we have welcomed more than 550 attendees, and there's 71 awardees that was awarded for their projects, organizations, and individuals. We have conducted 3 physical site visits for our Hong Kong IBIM members. So this includes Center for Construction, CFC, visit on 27 September of 2025. This is a second site visit and third site visit. Again, at the second site visit was Chuan Route T2. So this gives a chance for our members to travel down the 3.8 kilometers of tunnel to see the dismantling of the TBMs. So It was held end of last year, 22 November 2025. And then the third site visit was at the development of the loop. So it's another joint event that we co-host with HKIBIM. So this is another CEDD project. This is the MOU that we have engaged and signed with Korean Institute of BIM. So hopefully we'll turn this MOU into more collaborations with overseas institutes. So this is our social medias on WeChat, YouTube, Facebook, Instagrams. So please join us and stay tuned. Upcoming, we are hoping to share more of these automations through GitHub. So please stay tuned. When we are ready, we'll share it on our websites for the links. So I'll pass it back to Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you, Guan. So today we are happy to invite Dr. 𝗪𝗲𝗍𝗆 from Middlesex University, London, to share the topic, Shaping the Sustainable Digital Futures, Responsible AI-Enabled BIM and Digital Twins for Construction Governance and Leadership. So now, please join me to invite Dr. 𝗪𝗲𝗍𝗆 to have a presentation with us. Dr. 𝗪𝗲𝗍𝗆, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. May I ask if you can see my screen first and hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be with everybody here today. Good evening, good morning. I know that the majority of you are probably good evening now. First of all, apology for my voice. It's not the best at the moment, but that has never stopped me before. And hopefully you will find the topic very interesting, that you will forget about that. But I'd like to say that at any point, I'm happy to take on questions, whether in audio or in the text, and also at the end. I'm also happy to see that we have a few of our alumni with us as well in the participants. So please feel free to chip in if you can answer as well any of the questions. So going on to our topic today, I was thinking to myself, what would be a pertinent topic that is on everybody's mind, almost, certainly on my mind, but as well, it's a bit of a contention issue. It's a bit of a problem. So I decided to go for this one. How can we actually use new technologies and innovation like BIM and digital twins, which are both coupled with AI, but use them properly? Or can we use them properly? So before I go on, a little bit about myself to give you an introduction of why I'm talking about this topic. So I have been extremely fortunate to have two hats on. I'm not just an academic professor at university and leading our masters in BIM management, but I also am a consultant in industry. And I have been very fortunate to co-author quite a few of industry documents out there, like the CIOB AI Playbook, the Digital Twins Position Paper with the National BIM Standards of the US, the AI for QS Quantity Surveying AI Report, the African BIM Report, and a few other as well documents. And I have also been fortunate to gain a few awards for that and a few other industry roles. So with this background, I would like to take you through a journey today. I'd like to first of all discuss together, why do we need to do this? How the industry is transforming to do this? And then I would like to show you a project. It's an ongoing project. Some of you might have heard me talk about it a few years ago. But as we develop, I add more aspects to it related to new technologies. So it's an actual real-life cross-country project, which I'll introduce later. And then I will talk a little bit more about AI agents, not just a usage of AI. And then we will talk about the part that's most important to us, the risks, the governance, apology, and the leadership aspect of it. And I will end with the implementation part by introducing how we can upskill and an example of how we do that in our own Masters in BIM management. So, as I said before, please feel free to ask at any point as we go on. So let's start with the doom and gloom first, a little bit about the challenges and what we have. So this is not new to us. Unfortunately, our industry is responsible for a lot of these crimes up here on the top. We usurp 50% of the raw materials of the world, 40% energy consumption, 30% carbon emissions, and as well, if that's not enough, 30% of the world's waste as part of our industry, whether it be in constructing buildings or operating buildings. And I wanted to show you this study at the bottom, which I personally led with a European consortium. If you can imagine the blue line as the European standards or benchmarks for sustainable buildings, unfortunately, the red line shows where our current buildings are in Europe with regards to energy and carbon, indoor climate and pollution, water quality, air quality, and wastes and so on. And I would say that it is not much different all around the world. So we are starting with a very, very gloomy picture. So what can we do? Is there something that can be done? Well, actually, there are a lot of initiatives out there. If we talk about AI initiatives alone, I am hoping or guessing that we are all familiar with the categorization of AI for AI narrow intelligence, general intelligence, and superintelligence. Narrow intelligence is things like Google Translate, Alexa, all the tools that we've been using over more than a decade now. General intelligence is more like the tools of Gen AI that we are interacting with at the moment, like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, and others out there at the moment where you can actually have a discussion and analysis in live. And then there is the superintelligence, which is the sci-fi Terminators, which we're not at the moment. Hopefully we don't reach that anytime soon. But with the current applications of AI, I'd like to introduce a few here, like this one here on the left in the middle. This is an actual project that was conducted using AI prediction tools, which actually analyzed every single block of stone on this heritage facade. It analyzed the geometry, the age, the level of deterioration, when it needs to be renovated and how. An extremely excellent example of using AI. AI is also used for structural failure analysis, like up here on the right. Also for robotics, for assuming risks and finding them on site just by seeing pictures or videos of people at work. It can actually predict and flag if there are risks on site. It's also used for surveying quantities at the bottom, for improving the design of internal spaces, for improving manufacturing, and so on. Sorry. These are all applications which are currently available for AI. So if we, as people in our own organizations, want to implement AI, are there any particular steps that we should go through in order to do that? I have in my consultancy always advocated 12 steps that we can go through in order to implement AI within our organizations. Let me quickly go through them with you. First of all, we need to determine what AI can do. What are the possible uses of AI in general? We then focus it down a little bit by performing a gap analysis in our own organizations. So which of these uses can be useful for us? What are the defects that we have that AI can help us with? And that includes generic AI, agentic AI, algorithmic AI, and all sorts as well. We then need to understand, do we have the right people to take on that task? So we need to define what skill sets we need in our organization in order to start looking at implementing AI. And I will show you later a list of some of these skill sets that we have identified in our own projects. Do we need to outsource them? Do we need to upskill them internally? And then the next step is, do we need to use off-the-shelf existing AI tools, or do we need to create some? If we need to create some, then what do we need them for? What types of AI, like for example, do we need deep learning? Do we need supervised learning? Do we need NLP? Do we need, what kind of AI tools do we need? Also, what kind of dashboards and outputs do we need to produce from that AI? All of this is before we even start creating the AI itself. What data do we need to feed the AI with? The inputs that we need to input into the AI. All of this is still before we even start creating the AI. How do we assess the deliverables? Are there any key performance indicators or metrics that we should use in order to make sure that the results we're getting are suitable for our uses? Are there any risks, liabilities, implications of using AI in the organization? How often do we need to update those AI tools? And how we integrate them with our existing systems. You will be surprised to know that we need to identify all these 12 steps before we actually start using AI itself. But once these are defined, it is very easy actually to start creating or using existing AI tools. Now, what tools to use is a talk for another discussion, which I have not included here, but I have included it in the CIOB AI playbook, which is available publicly if anyone would like to download it. I have talked about different AI tools generically that can be used and also algorithms that can be used. What I will do in this talk is give you an actual example that we did with our project, which I'll show later. Before I go on, the 12 steps which I just showed you have some problems or caveats, which is part of today's topic. Today's topic is all about the risks and the problems of using AI, digital twins, and the merge of them. So what are some of these issues? First of all, we need to establish an internal working group in the organization. It is not just about identifying what skill sets are like. I need a prompt manager, or I need an algorithm programmer. No, it's not about defining the roles. We need to create an internal working group that works together. These are some of the roles that I mentioned. You'll be surprised, or maybe not surprised, that some of them, like, who could imagine that we need a manager for creating prompts, or a person to train the data, or to analyze the prediction of the data, an ethics officer for the AI that comes out. So these are all part of the roles which need to be part of the AI working group. We also need to identify the vision and the objectives of the company that relate to AI. We need to identify what level of AI we want to reach, the maturity level. Not all AI deliverables will be at highest maturity level. We need to identify the pilot projects that we will use to use the AI in. We need to identify any ethics issues. Are there any cultural issues, like, for example, using AI in the Eastern context in Asia might have different cultural factors than using it in the Western culture, for example, or the Middle Eastern culture. These are very, very important to identify. And of course, learning and redefining as we go on. Okay, the next part is the project which I want to show you. So, this was a live project that was created using several institutions together. It was a joint project between UK and Egypt, with the help of the British Council, the Newton Fund in the Ministry of Antiquities in Egypt, and a few other universities like Cairo University, Middlesex University, and a few other industry organizations in both UK and Egypt. And the whole idea was to create a joint BIM digital twin system that could be used for restoration of heritage in Egypt. For those of you who are familiar with heritage in Egypt, it is said that, the number could be exaggerated, but 75% of the heritage artifacts worldwide are in Egypt, ranging from the ancient Egyptian, Roman, Greek, Islamic, Coptic, and modern architecture, which are all related to heritage. So what we did was, as an example of heritage buildings in Egypt, this is one of the buildings that we were working on, Tosun Palace, and we started by identifying the problems in it. And it was in shambles when we took it over. Had a lot of ruins from different fires, as you see up here. There were a lot of systems that were not working inside the palace. A lot of the systems needed to be upgraded, renovated, but to make things even worse, the whole basement was infested with bats and snakes, which of course not only made it unoperational, but also unrenovational. So we had a lot of issues to deal with in that particular case study. So we started by creating a holistic internal and external 3D scanning using drones, because we couldn't necessarily go into the basement where the bats and snakes were. So we used drones internally and externally, and we created an AI digital twin system. We used a lot of IoT devices, these 14 different devices in different places inside the building to detect different things related to the heating, lighting, air quality, carbon dioxide, mobility, movement of the people, structure, water quality, and so on. Apology, I'll just plug in my just the air of the electricity. There we go. And then we created an online digital twin system. We're using a gateway and cloud services, and we created our own dashboards and APIs. We don't need to go into the specifics of the AI digital twin, but we did employ a lot of a lot of AI algorithms using existing tools and bespoke custom tools, as I will explain later. The very important factor that we were trying to align with was to make sure that we were aligning with all United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 of them. Let me show you how. So as part of the deliverable, we created a framework for structural analysis, a virtual reality and augmented reality simulations for the behavior of people inside the building. We also created an expert system for renovation. We created a real-time visual analytics platform, as you can see here, of the people, the energy, even computational fluid dynamics on the inside of the building. All of this was part of the work that we created. And this addressed these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for sustainability, responsible consumption, affordable and clean energy, health and well-being, clean water, but also to address climate change, as I will explain later. This was also part of creating new degrees in Cairo University to teach those methods. So we addressed UN SDG 13 and 14. We also addressed UN SDG 5 and 10 by making sure that we were aligning with the needs for different genders, inclusivity in the design, and so on. This slide here actually is my favorite, and it shows how we aligned with some of the most difficult UN SDGs that we were facing. So we were trying to align with decent work, SDG 8, no poverty, SDG 1, and zero hunger, SDG 2. Now, the way that we were doing that is as follows. We created an estimation using AI that if the system that we were creating was employed by the Ministry of Antiquities in Egypt over other heritage sites in Egypt, then this would generate more than 3 million jobs in tourism alone for the Egyptian government, and an increase of about 12% in the GDP over the next 10 years. This would address the SDG 8 and SDG 1. We also created a digital twin of the estates of the building that I showed you, which contained a lot of vegetables and fruits and so on. And using this digital twin, we were again able to, using the AI prediction tool, to identify how much crops were to be generated over the next 10 years and how these could be distributed over the neighboring neighborhoods in order to help with zero hunger. We also were very interested in the biodiversity SDGs like life below water. Someone might say, how can your building contribute to that? So actually, what we realized is that our drainage systems were connected to the Nile River. And because they were in very, very bad shape, they were contributing to the pollution of the Nile River. So by renovating those drainage systems, we were helping protect life below water. Also life on land. Instead of fumigating the bats and snakes, which I mentioned, which was the initial suggestion we were given, we actually took extra measures to relocate as many of these as possible to other habitats, for example, to nearby desert areas and so on and so forth. So that was UN SDG 15. And finally, UN SDG 16 and 17 with partnerships, this was allowed by starting to replicate this 6-year project. It's still ongoing, but it was initially a 6-year project across different countries, including UK as well. So a lot of the things that we were identifying here, for example, creating a new classification system for heritage, was utilized as part of the Parliament Palace renovation endeavors in UK. So, with this being said, this is a summary of what we used digital twins for in that project. But what about AI? We also used machine learning algorithms in that project. Now, I hope this is still interesting to you, so I'm going to very quickly summarize the different AI algorithms that we used within that project. Those of you who are maybe aware of machine learning, that it contains 3 major types of learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Supervised learning is when you train the AI with known inputs and known outputs. So with a lot of this, it gets to know that when it's given any data, then it will be able to predict the outputs of those known inputs. Unsupervised learning is different. Unsupervised learning is when you feed the AI with a lot of unstructured data, data that you know nothing about. It's just data that you're collecting, for example, from IoT sensors or from documents, and you have absolutely no idea what it means or what it could generate as outputs. So you do that, and the AI generates groups and different predictions and outputs and so on. Reinforcement learning is the one that we are probably all familiar with. And this is basically the stick and the carrot for the AI. So AI produces deliverables for you. You tell it, yes, I like it. No, I don't like it. So it starts giving you better and better deliverables. Very similar to what we do with the ChatGPT, Copilot, and these language models that we use all the time. So let me show you examples of how we used all 3. So for the supervised learning, these were examples of classification and regression applications. We were able to classify the heritage buildings whether they were low, medium, or high in terms of their impact on the environment, in terms of their impact on the energy consumption, in terms of the errors in snagging during renovation, just like showing pictures to AI of what the problems are, like that picture I showed you of the facade of the different stones and how to classify them, of identifying whether the data that is being provided is valid or not from these heritage buildings, to evaluate risks, the estimation of the life expectancy of the different components in the heritage buildings, optimize the sustainability processes in the buildings, optimize the inventory of those buildings. So these were all things that we were able to do using AI supervised learning on our project. Now let's go on to the unsupervised learning, where you have unstructured data and you don't know what you can get out of it. So these are some of the things that we got out of it. We were able to find anomalies in the data. We were able to define best features, sustainability, optimization features to apply in the buildings. We were able to find relationships between the different data, like the relationship between the energy consumption and the lighting in the building, or the level of deterioration of the internal facade and the usage of the internal spaces, for example. We were also able to define what talents we need on the building, to group the buildings in terms of planning, permissions, and so on. And lastly, with reinforcement learning, this is the carrot and the stick, where the AI improves its deliverables for you. We were able to produce virtual reality applications of the buildings, of the heritage buildings internally, and that helped a lot with improving the internal renovations. It also helped providing a lot of information for tourists. There will also a lot of improvement of the personalized spaces, which were used for admin, not for tourism inside those buildings, and so on and so forth. So these are just some of the applications of AI that we used on our project. These are some of the algorithms that we used, but we don't need to go into detail. But the important slide here, and this is where we start talking about the risks, is realizing that there was a lot of responsibility with all these data deliverables that AI was giving us. And unfortunately, not all of it was good. It took us a while to realize that. We were really happy at the beginning with all of the applications and outputs that the AI was giving us in all of these things. But little by little, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years in the projects and ongoing now, because of our continued collaboration with the Ministry of Antiquities, is that some of the data actually exhibited a few flaws and errors. Let me show you what these were. So, with the supervised learning data, we realized that the data that was coming out of the AI to tell us how much money we need or the ministry needs to invest in the renovations, actually, we were being held accountable for that investment. Unfortunately, this was biased in some sense commercially. So some of the investment, money-wise, was benefiting some of the, let's say, entities in Egypt more than others when it comes to the investment of the money in the renovations. So we had to be extremely careful to go back and see where the bias was coming from in the data that was being supplied into the AI in order to give us how much money should be invested in the different parts of the heritage, like how much money is to be invested in the different locations in Egypt, or the different types of heritage buildings in Egypt, and so on and so forth, or the different eras. So how much investment in the ancient Pharaonic as opposed to the Islamic, as opposed to like the Coptic, and so on and so forth. So this was a big part of the revision of the data that was coming out of the AI. Also, we were realizing that there started to be some misuse of the data online. This is where the ministry started applying very heavy security measures in order to define who gets access to which data online, because this could invoke terrorist attacks, for example, by identifying all of this data about the heritage buildings that is coming out of the digital twins. Also, how this was impacting the safety of the workers, the not just the people who are renovating, but the tourist guides, the tourists, the admin that were working in the buildings. So how the data that was coming out was impacting the safety of these people and their well-being inside the buildings. Same thing here. So all of these risks need to be weighted. They needed to be prioritized. We couldn't handle them all at the same time. We needed to prioritize what aspects of the AI data to be weighted, prioritized first. Now, going on to the unsupervised learning AI deliverables, again, there were problems in this one. For example, we realized that maybe the AI was misinterpreting some of the data anomalies. If you remember, I mentioned that the AI was able to tell us which data to use and which data were anomalies. But could we really trust AI completely in discarding all of the data that it was telling us it was anomalies? It was possible that there were misinterpretations simply because of the factor of interpretation of language, culture, and many other factors related to this particular environment that we were in. Also, the ethics side of the data, because of the environment that we are in, this Middle Eastern, Egyptian side of things. Transparency was also a big thing. In the Middle East, and those of you who maybe are familiar with work there, and maybe in the Eastern context as well of the world, there is sometimes a reluctance to be transparent in sharing data. Of course, it's because of fear of security breaches, but again, this lack of transparency sometimes resulted in conflict of interest, unfairness, lack of accountability of data, and bias, and so on. So this was all part of what we had to deal with and refine in the training of the AI and in monitoring the AI that was coming out. Some of the historic data, as I mentioned, also was prone to interpretation of the culture and the context and the regulations in the country itself. Finally, with the reinforcement learning, we also realized that the simulations that were being produced, let's say with the virtual reality, they were not necessarily indicating the real behavior of the users in that context. We needed to add more data to show the cultural aspect of the people involved, traceability of the data, aligning with the well-being requirements. I'll give you an example. People in these environments tend to feel more comfort with certain temperatures than people in the Western hemispheres, for example. Also regarding humidity levels, regarding lighting levels. All of these differ based on the context that we are in. So we had a lot of learning tasks and adaptation to use. So this concludes the project that we were using digital twins, AI in, and all of the issues that we tackled in. Now let me go on to the third topic. So apology if I may go back to just show you. So I have showed you the challenges. I have showed you the project. I now want to show you a little bit more about a recent development of AI, and that's related to how we can use AI agents. And this is the new aspect that we are currently using with the Ministry of Antiquities and in UK as well, within the project that I consult in and in the Middle East. And it is also part of what we will start tackling in our masters in BIM management, because this is the new way forward. So let's talk a little bit about AI agents. What are they and what are they used for? So some of you might already be using them. So it's what we call agentic AI, basically. So AI agents are task-specific systems. They are entities, if you want to call them that way, that do basically three things. First of all, they automatically, so in an autonomous way, they analyze any data that you give it. It doesn't have to wait for you to tell it what to analyze and how to analyze it. It then takes its own decisions based on a decision tree that you already supply it with, and then it acts. And this is where a digital twin comes in place, because as we all know, a digital twin is a two-way stream of data. We get the data, we analyze it, we take decisions, and then we act back, making decisions back into the physical space based on what we do in the virtual space. So the AI agent can actually be the catalyst that does these actions in the physical asset. So that's what an AI agent does. So how do we create it in principle, in general? There are several steps to create it in principle. First of all, as I mentioned, to define the problem we need the agent for, define the data sources we're going to give it, define the AI logic or rules, the models that we're going to use, add the systems, the digital systems that we already have to it, define if there are any trigger events or points that make it work, and continuously improve it. Okay? So this is a generic overview of AI agents. I do have a few specific examples which I'd like to show you, and these are ones that you can go directly and create yourselves. So let's suppose that you want to create a design coordination agent, something that would automatically detect clashes or optimize design features. How do you go about doing that? Well, the workflow is pretty simple. First of all, you define what BIM models and BIM non-graphical data you will input. So the agent will already know what data it will be provided with. You then tell it what conflicts to look for. You then tell it what suggestions it could give, but leave it open for the AI to suggest other things. So you only give it examples, and by learning, it will suggest more and more and more. And the last part is you allow it to update the model itself by removing the clashes or changing things in the design itself. Now, of course, we need to be very careful with that last one. As I mentioned earlier in our project, we had to go in ourselves and monitor what was being acted on, because sometimes the AI would hallucinate, and like, for example, when it does the the design optimization, it ends up putting the door of the bathroom right beside the entrance of the flat, for example. So there are certain logic decisions which we need to ingest and update as we go along and monitor, and the AI will get better at it as we go along. Let's look at another agent, and that's a compliance agent with rules and regulations, let's say building regulations. So again, the workflow would look something like this. You first of all need to show the AI how to link the model to the regulation. So which parts of the embedded families, for example, does it link to which phrases or clauses in a certain building reg? Okay. You then teach it how to do the check compliance. It checks for the square footage of this. It checks for the height of that. It checks for, so you give it all the checks that it needs to do. You then teach it how to flag the violations and rank them from minor to moderate to major violations. And then you suggest corrective actions again, and it will help produce these for you, and sometimes even act on them inside the models if you wish it to do so. Another agent, a cost and carbon agent, because you want to reduce carbon emissions and at the same time reduce costs, not have your costs through the roof by employing sustainability solutions. So what do you do in the workflow? Extract the quantities first. You teach it what quantities to extract, how to link them to the cost and carbon databases. You teach it how to generate scenarios of solutions for reduced embodied carbon, reduced operational carbon by changing materials, by changing behaviors, and so on. And this is where the recommendations come in. It recommends new materials, new designs, new behaviors, new equipment, and so on. This is another agent, a planning agent. So this is where you provide the AI agent with historical data of previous planning schedules on previous projects that you did. This will give it an idea of how to categorize and initiate the sequence of construction, for example. Also, how much time to give for each activity in the planning schedule. How to do the delays and compensate for them. And then you teach it how to generate the schedule itself over how many months or years. You then teach it how to simulate the delays, where there will be, and do the compensation routes for that, and optimize the timeline. Another agent could be site monitoring agent, where you have the AI agent control the drone or camera data on site. You then compare with models, detect safety risks, and alert the teams if there are any problems. And finally, a digital twin operations agent, which you teach the AI to take the IoT sensor data, predict failures, trigger maintenance events, and produce optimization actions. So these are things for all AI agents, which we have personally tried to create on our project. Now I want to show you how we integrated them all together for renovation. So first of all, we identified the changes in our models. We unleashed the design agent to update the geometry. We then unleashed our compliance agent to check the regulations. We then unleashed our cost carbon agent to recalculate the budget and to update the carbon footprint. We then unleashed our planning agent to adjust the schedule, and then unleashed our digital twin agent to simulate the impact on that building. And the result was a real-time decision-making process. That is the current system that we currently have with the Ministry of Antiquities, and we're still updating it. It's still there are still flaws, and we're still trying to make it even better and better. But I will say that it has optimized the workflows on the different projects by at least 20% so far. So, with that being said, just a quick slide on how you can create agents. We created agents in two ways. A simple way in using Agent Builder in Copilot. The reason why I'm mentioning Copilot is that we have it as a ready resource, enterprise resource at Middlesex University. And all our students on our master's program who are professionals on the program have free access to it because of the security aspect of the enterprise. So that's why I'm mentioning how to create it on Copilot in particular. But you can create agents on any AI tools. So The easy tool was to use the agent builder inside Copilot itself. You'll find it there right next to the text, the chat function. But the other one was using Copilot Studio. That's an additional function that needs to be added. And we used 10 steps. I'll quickly go through them. Happy to share my slides if you want to see them in detail. First of all, you click on Create Agent. Then you describe what you want to do in English or in your native language. Like, for example, help construction managers monitor BIM models for compliance and flag risk. Okay? What then happens is that the agent helps you define the instructions for it. It then adds the knowledge resources. You tell it what documents and websites and databases to use. You create the topics for it to use. All of this is part of the steps inside it. You add actions to it. You add triggers that to make it work automatically without you clicking on it. You then test it on projects. You publish it, like, for example, in Teams or in other internal systems, and you monitor it. So my final part that I want to show you is the risks part and a summary again of how to mitigate for that. I'm just taking a look at the time. So I'm almost over. I hope this has been interesting so far. So what I have shown you so far is our industry transformation, our project, AI agents, and now I want to show you our risks, and I will end by showing you how we do that upskilling in our master's program. So if I go to our risks, I mentioned the risks in our project that we did with the Egyptian government. Now, here are some of these risks laid out for us. First of all, AI use what's called black box models, and we've all probably heard that term before. We have no idea how AI creates what it creates. It is not transparent for even the most proficient programmers how the coding is done internally in the AI models. So that is a risk because we do not know much about it. And we need to ask AI itself to be more transparent, to tell us its methodology in its models. Second, bias. We need to be very vigilant in the type of bias that is in the data sets in the training. Cross-context is also very important, and I mentioned that when I said using AI in the Middle East is different from the Far East, from the Europe, from South America, from Australasia. There are different cultural context, regulation context, and also activity contexts. And we need to feed the AI with all of these differences, social contexts, location, climate contexts. All of this will have an impact on the AI suggestions and predictions that it provides us. So we cannot have a one solution fits all. Also, a lot of the time, humans do not monitor or take accountability for the production of the AI. It's very, very important that there is constant monitoring of the products of AI. Now, this by far is one of the most dangerous, and unfortunately, this will evolve, this will materialize over years. Little by little, us as professionals, we will lose our skills to judge and analyze and create our own analysis and our own decisions and our own actions. We will rely on AI so much that we will lose our own professional judgment. And this is something that really needs to be taken care of. Unfortunately, this is something at organizational level to be taken care of. There needs to be constant assessment of the employees' skill sets in order to make sure that they are not losing their professional judgment. This is not something for you and I as individuals, but for organizations to do. And finally, of course, we need to be aware of how the algorithms and the errors are happening. The biggest problem will always be the skill gap. What we need to add in our skill sets, in how we upskill, in order to make sure that our employees are able to tackle the AI. And these are some of the roles which I suggested before. As I said, AI can only advise, but it will not assume responsibility. This is, if you take nothing else from today, please take on this quote here. So, with that in place, what should the leadership do in our own organizations? In order to tackle ethical legal problems, transparency, bias, and accountability, there needs to be a lot of simulation exercises, training. We need to have a lot of case studies in order to try out the AI in. We need to review constantly, and we need to have interdisciplines who put the governance regulations for the AI. This is at higher level, organization level. So, this is an example that I wanted to show you. We've all heard of data centers, of course, and how much energy consumption they produce. So here are some of the solutions that AI could suggest in order to lower energy consumption. First of all, to optimize the hardware itself, use energy efficient servers and so on. So these are choices that need to be monitored by humans. Also, optimize the AI model themselves. Use smaller AI models. Run them off-peak hours when we know that the energy will not be as expensive. Use renewable energy sources like solar or wind, or reuse the heat that is being produced by the data centers. Be carbon aware in terms of schedule the AI training, as I mentioned, during hours where the energy is not so expensive. So all of these are decisions that the AI will give us, but we as humans need to monitor to see which are the best to use. So in conclusion, our future is not one that has AI in construction. No, that's not what we want. We want AI governed construction. where leadership is responsible, where organizations are doing the change, and where we are upskilling our workforce. And with that, I want to end with the last part about how are we currently upskilling the workforce on our masters in BIM management. So let me just give an overview first of Middlesex University. So Middlesex University is in the top 2 in the Young University rankings. It's in the top 2% in the world university rankings. We have more than 300 undergraduate and 200 postgraduate programs across our multinational branches in the UK, Dubai, Mauritius, and Malta as well. We have more than 160 nationalities worldwide in our student body. We have more than 40,000 students worldwide, and we have more than 250 partnerships with industry and academic partnerships all around the world. So this is regarding our university itself. Regarding our Masters in BIM Management. So it is called Masters in BIM Management and Sustainable Digital Delivery. We have 2 strands to it, part-time and full-time, and we have been running it for 14 years. And across those 14 years, we have been awarded 5 awards for highest standard in BIM performance. 3 of these awards were by the Hong Kong Institute of BIM in 2025, 24, and 20. We also were awarded the Green Gown UK and Ireland Sustainability Champion Award in 2024. And we were awarded the International Business Excellence Award early on in our journey by the IBX organization. I just want to tip my hat to Crawley, who is one of our most recent alumni, who also received an award in the HKIBIM 2025 award this year. In addition to that, our program was validated 3 times across its 14-year journey. And because it was most recently, we do that validation every 6 years to make sure that we are up to date with the most recent industry standards and technologies. So our most recent was a year ago. And because of that, we are currently under the accreditation of the CIOB, the Chartered Institute of Building in UK, and the Joint Board of Moderators in UK, which includes within it 5 professional bodies, which you see in front of you. So by the end of next year, we will have 6 accreditations, which you will see here in front of you. Our alumni are all over the world, more than 500 alumni all over the world from 33 countries in all 5 continents, US, Canada, Peru, Brazil, all of Europe, many countries in Africa, many countries in Asia, Australia, New Zealand, from all different aspects of the construction industry. But what I'm particularly proud of is that more than 90% of our alumni are currently BIM managers and BIM leads and BIM directors of global companies, of these companies. So these companies that you see in front of you here, who are some of the biggest players in the world, we have directors in all of them. Here are some of the roles of some of them that you see in front of you. And this is a detailed list, actually, of more of them that we have. These are all directors and leads all over the world. I also, before starting to go into the details of what the program actually contains, I want to specify that we used to have another Masters in BIM Construction Technologies, which used to teach the software skills itself, and we are providing all its material additional to the Masters in BIM Management degree itself. So our original Masters in BIM Management is focusing on the management side of projects, organizations, and teams. How do you become a manager? You can consider it like an executive MBA in construction, actually. But with the focus of management on our masters, in addition to it, we are providing software skills as well that we are giving optional if anyone would like to benefit from it. So let's focus on what we are providing on our Masters on BIM Management. Of course, it has the four main aspects. So we focus on the management of technology, people, policy, and process. And these are only some of the things that we focus on. But we have been very vigilant, especially in our new validation, to make sure that we are including Industry 4.0 technologies. We are including innovation, so how to provide disruptive innovation, consolidative innovation, maturity innovation, and growth innovation. This is part of what we teach. And as well, we are aligned with all 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I will show you later how. So the program contains 5 main modules. Technical BIM Management, 2 modules. Operational BIM Management, 2 modules. And Strategic BIM Management, which is the large final thesis module. The first 2 BIM management modules take you through a journal of global frameworks and sustainable practice. Same thing from the operational BIM management, global frameworks and sustainable practice. And the final strategic BIM management talks about organizational level management. So these first 4 talk about how do you technically and operationally manage teams and projects. And the last one talks about managing organizations. The way that it is run is completely virtual, interactive delivery. So we recognize that our professionals who are at least 3 to 5 years of experience in their industry are people who are fully employed in industry. And hence, we do not require them to come in person. We deliver our interactive weekly webinars to them every single week online. All throughout the year. So if it's in full-time, it's 1 year. In part-time, it's 2 years. For whoever, of course, we have both part-timers and full-timers. And we deliver that all throughout the year, distance education or distance learning. I'll give you more details in a minute, but this is how we have aligned all sustainable development goals, the technical, the environmental, the social, the biodiversity, and the governance, all 17, with all 5 modules. So if I go back, if you do this in part-time, then you will study the first 2 modules in the first year and the second 2 modules in the second year. They're divided between the first term and the second term. If you study in full-time, you will study all 4 modules in 1 year, first term and second term, and the master's module is always at the end, whether you do part-time or full-time. The full duration, as I mentioned, is 1 year or 2 years. We have a range of global guest lecturers who are experts in the field, more than 40 of them. My screen could only take 20, but that is in addition to myself and other experts in industry and in academia as well from all over the world who teach on the program. The way it is taught is as follows. If you're doing this in part-time, we have 2 webinars per week, 2 hours each. They are usually around lunchtime in UK, so that means that they will probably be end of the day for you. And if you're doing this in full-time, it will be 3 webinars per week. These are interactive, debate, and so on, with the expert guest lecturers who are delivering it. We don't have exams, so all your deliverables are a project case study. So we give you an actual industry case study, and we ask you to provide analysis, analytical reports, defining strategies for them, journals, and so on, which are all managerial level deliverables. We do not require you to create BIM models or 4D or 5D deliverables. We would expect you to know how to review or look into, be able to see BIM models, 3D, 4D, 5D, and so on, but not create them yourself. So there's no creation of BIM models. All of the deliverables are all management level deliverables on the program. We also have a summer workshop at the end of the first 4 modules to prepare you for the thesis, where we explain to you how to do the thesis, and we discuss with you one-on-one your individual topics. We have a couple of our students and alumni on the call here. I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you about their experience with that. So, to keep things short, these are examples of what we talk about in the first 2 technical BIM management modules. These are examples of what we talk about in the operational BIM management modules, like risk, quality, cost, legal, sustainability. The technical BIM management tackles technical management throughout the whole life cycle for teams and projects. And this is an example of what we teach in the strategic BIM module for management of organizations and implementation of BIM and digital technologies in organizations. Again, happy to share all of this with everybody. Just wanted to show that we have many different categories of teaching in our master's program and in our other masters, which we will also give you complementary with this one. And this is how the different aspects are addressed in both of them. Here on a managerial level and here on a software skill set level. Again, this is complementary that we provide, but this is the main one that we teach you. The focus is on making managers, digital leaders, and directors. These are examples of some of the software in the CPD tutorials that we can provide for you. All licenses are provided by the university, and these are some of the examples of technical skill sets that we can show you how to produce as well. Finally, I wanted to allude that our students are not passive. They participate in our projects. So this 6-year project that I showed you, our students participated in creating different aspects of it. They also participated in this challenge, which was the Barnet Carbon Zero Challenge in UK. They provided, again, solutions to help the council become a zero council, net zero council. The eligibility for the program, that you either have a degree in something related to construction, or you have a membership from a professional body, or you have relevant experience. We usually take people who have a few years of experience so that they can help each other, and this is where the management skill sets can be grown. We would require you to submit, of course, your CV, a personal statement with the application. And this is the scholarship that HKIBIM are providing, which I'll leave to them to explain in more detail. They have been very, very generous in providing this for all members of the HKIBIM, for anyone who joins our cohorts. But with that, I am open to questions, whether regarding my talk or about our program. I'm hoping that wasn't too long for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. 𝗨𝗲, for the presentation. It's a fruitful one. So now we are in the Q&A time. So members, if you have questions, today we are open for the microphone and the camera. So if you have anything you want to ask Dr. 𝗨𝗲, no matter the presentation or about the Middlesex University, the degree and the master courses, please feel free to raise your hands or unmute your mic to ask any questions. So at the time we are waiting for the question, let me just start from myself. So Dr. 𝗨𝗲, from your presentation, I saw that there is one criteria you mentioned about, is about the AI. They may have a kind of the geographically differences. Maybe they are a kind of the different AI should be focusing on the different country or cultures, right? That's you mentioned in the presentations. So in the market nowadays, can you see any kind of the AI vendors? They have made such a difference. They make such different versions for the different continent or different cultures. Because from my point of view, I always see all of the AIs, they are quite generally. They're not focusing on some of the different cultures or the different focusing on different cultures or etc.
Thank you for the question. That's a very, very on-point question, and you are absolutely right. Unfortunately, generic AI tools out there do not differentiate between these different social aspects or governance aspects. Unfortunately, when we use them, we need to make sure that we are monitoring the outputs of the data so that it is within the contextual parameters that we have in our organizations. And that's why sometimes creating the AI agents is the solution for that. So the AI tool itself does not take the cultural context, the regulations, the climate, all of these. It does not take weather data, for example, into context. It does not take cultural norms and values into it, heritage contextual values. If you create an AI agent attached to the tool, you can embed it with all of these individual parameters and contexts, and that could be the solution in this case.
Okay. There is a questions from Gia. Is the Copilot Studio a software, a digital platform, or a set of the open source tools, or simply a set of digital skills?
Copilot is a platform which is very similar to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is probably one of the most known and recognized worldwide. So when you first, you can go on the browser and go to Copilot. It is part of Microsoft as well, and it will allow you to use its chat function to ask questions like ChatGPT and Gemini and the other platforms as well. But additionally, it allows you to create agents. These agents could be basic, or they could be paid for if you are part of your enterprise. The good thing about Copilot, I'm not advocating it because we use it in our organization, but it is true that it has a layer of security attached to it, where it does not use the data that you provide it with for its training data. And it does not disclose your data to other organizations or other people who are using it. So it's extremely, extremely secure. Whilst there are other platforms, and I don't want to say names now, which if you give it, for example, your original IP, you could find that IP shared with other organizations very, very quickly if you put it into that AI tool. So that's why I was mentioning it. I hope I answered the question, though.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lohan. So, and there's another question from myself, actually. So about the governance, this is a very hot topic when we talk about the AI or the AI agent, whatever it is. So is there any governance in the UK, the governance how the AIs behave or how they developed, especially in UK or in the EU region?
That is a brilliant question. Thank you for mentioning it. AI, like many of the other countries, is beginning to realize that it needs regulations for AI. There aren't necessarily a government-wide set of rules and regulations, but there are professional bodies starting to produce AI guidance documents on how to govern AI. One of the most recent and very, very good one is the RICS, or Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. One, I don't know if anybody remembers, one of the documents which I co-created was AI for quantity surveyors. That's one of the initiatives that came as a result of the RICS AI governance guidance document. I would definitely advise people to go and download it. I can't remember if it's for free or not, but it has a lot of very good points about governance, ethics, responsibility, and responsible AI. Also, please download the documents that I shared with you, which I co-authored. They have a lot about responsible AI and use of AI as well. There are other organizations like British Council and other organizations which are starting to create those guidance documents as well.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Loha. So I think we are around running out of time. If there's no any Q&A, or actually you can still ask Q&A after the presentation and send it to us. We can forward it to Dr. Loha to answer your questions. So I think I would like to hand over the time to our chairman, Guan, have some speech.
Yep, Dr. Noha Salib, thank you for your submissions for the HKIBIM Award 2025. So yeah, thank you for your participation. Hopefully, we'll have you again as a speaker in near future too. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
And I will share the presentation. If anyone is interested in a copy, everything will be inside it, including the scholarship offer as well from HKIBIM.
Yeah,
Sure.
that would be awesome.
Okay, all right. Thank you, members or non-members. That's all for today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Have a good day,
Dr.
everyone.
Loha.
Please reach out to me if you wish on LinkedIn or from my email address. I'm happy to discuss further with anybody. Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you very much for facilitating the event, HKIBIM.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
All right. See you soon.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye-bye.